Democrats are powerless to stop Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court nomination on their own. That's the math of the question. But they're still trying, and they're going to keep trying, apparently, till the bitter end. In a last-minute twist today, Senator Dianne Feinstein of California says she has sent a letter about Kavanaugh to the FBI. It's a secret letter written by a secret person containing a secret allegation about possible misconduct in high school some 35-plus years ago. That's what we know. Trace Gallagher has more. Hey, Trace.
Hi, Tucker. Senator Feinstein released a statement saying the reason she won't talk about the information she passed on to federal investigators is because, quoting here, that individual strongly requested confidentiality, declined to come forward or press the matter further, and I have honored that decision. The New York Times is reporting the matter involves possible sexual misconduct between Kavanaugh and a female when the judge was in high school. Fox News has learned that Senator Feinstein first heard about the claim back in July, and yet during 65 meetings with senators, including Feinstein, more than 32 hours of confirmation hearings, and 1,278 written follow-up questions from Democrats to Kavanaugh, the matter was never raised until today when Senator Feinstein sent it to investigators. The FBI says it'll include the information in Kavanaugh's background file, but we're told any further action on the letter would have to come from the White House. So far, the White House has done nothing except call this a Democratic delay tactic. John Cornyn, the #2 Republican in the Senate and member of the Judiciary Committee, is incredulous, saying, quote, "Let me get this straight. This is a statement about a secret letter regarding a secret matter and an unidentified person, right?" The conservative Judicial Crisis Network says this has all the indications of an 11th-hour character assassination. We should note Democrats on the Judiciary Committee have also tried and failed to subpoena documents into Kavanaugh's time as a top White House aide to George W. Bush, including documents on Kavanaugh's knowledge of enhanced interrogations and warrantless wiretapping in the wake of 9/11. Judiciary Committee Chair Chuck Grassley, who has not yet seen the letter from Senator Feinstein, says the confirmation vote will go forward as scheduled September 20th. Tucker.
Trace Gallagher, thanks a lot for that summary. Author and columnist Mark Stein has been following this, too, and he joins us tonight. So, Mark, typically you'd want to withhold judgment on something like this because you don't know what's in the letter. But here's what we do know. Judge Kavanaugh went to high school at Georgetown Prep in Bethesda, Maryland. If there was a crime alleged 35 years later, presumably that would be referred to the Maryland State Police or the local police in Bethesda. Instead, Senator Feinstein sent it to the FBI, federal authorities who would have no obvious jurisdiction. So that tells me right there that this is a crock, and it's the worst kind of smear, a smear you can't rebut against a man with a wife and small children. I'm not sure I've seen anything lower, ever.
No, you're absolutely right there. As you say, the FBI has no obvious jurisdiction here. I think in the normal course of events, given that this is something to do with the junior prom in Maryland in 1981 or 1979 or whenever the hell it was, it would be going to juvenile court. So this would be the first United States Supreme Court justice to be tried in juvenile court. That's a legal first. I think what we have here is actually the equivalent of what happened when Comey briefed the president on the so-called Steele dossier about Russian hookers in his hotel room and all the rest of it. And that gave the pretext to the media. Because Comey then leaked news of the meeting, that gave the media a pretext to discuss the dossier. Likewise, Senator Feinstein releasing, as everyone said, the secret letter from a secret person about a secret matter about the high school prom, has now given cover for a lot of sexual allegations. We don't know what they are. They're half a lifetime ago. And as you say, it's not something that he can be rebutted. And the real battle here, Tucker, is actually between Dianne Feinstein and the New Left. They were disappointed by the big shot Democrat dinosaurs' performance in the hearing rooms, and they want something a little more Antifa, a little more Black Lives Matter,
so
a little
true.
more Bernie Sanders. And it's pathetic to see Dianne Feinstein, and I've no idea what she did at her high school prom, however many years ago that was. It's pathetic to see Dianne Feinstein reduced to this.
Well, it's disgusting, and the dynamic you describe is exactly what's happening. The dinosaurs who are on their way out in charge of that party are terrified, and they're responding to the mob. Let me ask you a question that seems reasonable to me. It'll probably spark protests against me somehow. And I don't know what the allegation is, and I'm prepared to withhold judgment on that. But a 35-year-old allegation, if it exists, that has never been reported to the police, doesn't that at least raise the question of why has it never been reported, assuming it hasn't been?
Yes, it's actually, I think it's wrong to go back and relitigate a past you didn't litigate at the time. I think that's very, very dangerous. You see that as part of this moral panic that has gone on over the Me Too things. I mean, if you go back to the nearest comparable thing, the Clarence Thomas business, that
Right.
was within the previous decade. We're talking about something that was never I mean, the only reassuring thing about this is that, as you know, investigations are interminable in this country and in Washington in particular. And the only good thing about this is that the FBI has looked at it and kicked it out of their purview in 10 minutes flat. And good for them. They're not opening an investigation. They've just given it to the White House. They don't want to touch this. She's just diminished her own reputation by participating in this smear.
I've never met Brett Kavanaugh. I have no personal stake in this whatsoever. But I don't honestly, I think that any normal person should be offended by this. This is too much. It's too low. It's disgusting.
Oh, absolutely. It is. And this high school, I gather this is where Neil Gorsuch went to school too. So apparently it's where all Supreme Court judges. That's what it's the preparatory school for. So maybe he did something at his prom too.
Yeah.
Maybe it all goes back to the proms
It's
at this particular
unbelievable.
school.
It's an all-boys school, for whatever it's worth. Mark Stein, we'll see you in just a minute. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Well, after many months of